2019. What to say about 2019? Well, it sure was the last year of the decade, nobody can contest that. 2019 was a weird year where it simultaneously felt like pop didn't really matter anymore, and yet felt like it mattered more than it had in years. Though mostly by way of a select few artists coming out of nowhere with huge year-dominating hits. But besides that, 2019 mostly felt mellow. Not really a lot of awful songs, but not really a lot of great ones either. Mostly just a lot of good ones. Without the benefit of foresight, it's hard to say this was necessarily a transitional year, but I suspect that in a few years, it will be looked back upon as one. But I'm here to focus only on the good. In terms of at least the best hits of the year, at least for me, 2019 actually did have a pretty good overall sound to it. A lot of songs have a sort of relaxed, warm, and bright vibe to them, but still has some solid groove and melodic intrigue to go along with it. Songs that don't immediately impress you, but get subtly lodged in your head and grow on you the more you hear them. Putting together this list, a fair few of the songs that ended up my favorites were songs that didn't immediately stand out to me, but held up better to re-listens than a lot of songs that did immediately strike me, but faded over time. The overall vibe of this list feels a lot different to me than either my 2014 or 2012 lists, where emotive power dominated most of my picks. These songs in general are a lot more fun to listen to, and this list was, as a result, pretty fun to put together. And as always, songs had a debut on the Billboard year-end chart for 2019, so all of these tracks are ineligible. And since Billboard decided to go loco and end the chart year exceptionally early, there were a few late year hits that just barely missed the cut, which I'll cover in brief towards the end of the video. But for now, this is the top 10 best hit songs of 2019, starting with
Nothing feels better, nothing feels better.
Number 10.
Feels better.
Okay, we're gonna have to set up a new rule for these lists. I'm allowed count 'em, one really dumb but fun song on each of my year-end best lists. And there's nothing you can do about it. Yeah. I don't drink. I've never had a beer in my life. Just to clarify that straight away, since this is obviously meant to be a drinking song, and yes, it is dumb as hell. Let's get that out of the way first. If beer is the only thing you can count on, then you must be living a miserable existence, my man. And everyone I've heard from on the matter says beer tastes disgusting, too. Though again, I can't speak from experience there. But anyways, like with 50 Ways, this song is dumb and it knows it, so you can't really get mad at it for that.
She was a Carolina blue jean baby, fire in her eyes that drove me crazy.
And there's so much unnecessarily applied country twang to his voice, which, well, I've heard out of Luke Combs songs. He's honestly a pretty good singer when he wants to be, and sure, he has some twang in his voice on his other songs too, but it's not nearly as extra as it is on this one. I think his vocals are my biggest problem with this one in general, though they're far from a deal breaker. But can we talk about how much this song just plain rocks? This is basically a straight up classic southern rock tune, especially that main guitar riff, that reminds me of one song in particular I've not yet been able to quite pin down. It's also got some surprisingly great sounding instrumentation. There's some actual fire to the guitar tone that doesn't seem to be too prominent much these days in country, and the drums are pulling a lot more weight than you'd expect for something that's bread and butter. And there's a genuine guitar solo too. Like, not an amazing one, not even the best this year, but a solid B for effort. Look, I don't have much of a strong justification for this one beyond, it's a fun rock song, and I'm a rock kind of guy. And I ain't gonna give any justification either, since this really only made the list property the songs I liked more missing the year end. Not to say it isn't still a good song though. Luke Combs seems to be miles ahead of most of the rest of the country scene nowadays, after the bro country wave swept away so much of the old crowd. And I'm just glad there's something that genuinely rocks this hard doing this well on the charts.
Nothing feels better, nothing feels better.
Number 9.
Feels better.
This next song frustrates me because, for as much as I do like it, there's a part of me that still wishes I liked it even more. There's no question it's a great song on its own merits, and it's a song that I can't imagine not existing. It needed to happen. But its impact on this artist's career path has seemingly only been for the worse. But you know what? I'll let her have this one. She deserves it.
Yeah, for that I say thank you.
The big criticism of this song that I've heard is how dismissive its title and chorus are. In a sense I can understand, but I also get it. Sometimes it's just too much. Sometimes you just need to move on regardless of how others perceive it. Just leave things in the past that belong in the past. God knows she's been through a lot in the past few years. And this isn't really a song about any of her exes anyways. It's a song about Ariana and nobody else.
I got so much love, got so much patience.
And And that's where the frustration sets in, because this turns from a song about growing from experience, which is good, to a song about self-love, which is also good, maybe even as hell, but then to a song that turns borderline arrogant, most evident by the sheer gall of this line in particular.
God forbid something happens. At least this song is a smash.
But you know what? I think she deserved that too. This song deserved to be a smash, and it was. The first #1 hit of her career even. It's what comes after that's the problem for me. Her next big hit was Seven Rings, a song where that arrogance turned ugly and solely self-serving to an insufferable degree, followed up by the petty and childish breakup with your girlfriend. And I can only worry that she's not gonna get better about this in the future either, considering the success of those two tracks. It feels unfair to hold this song accountable for that, but I'll freely admit that's the biggest reason why this song isn't higher on my list.
Wish I could say thank you to Malcolm, 'cause he was an angel.
And I probably don't need to say it either, but the production on this is lovely as well. This is one of two big late 2018 songs that seem to define a 2019 pop sound, with its delicate melodic hooks, gentle synths, percussive groove, and overall warm and soothing sound. I also don't need to tell you that Ariana is a great singer, cooing the entire song without ever resorting to full-on belting, performing appropriately for the low-key vibe of this song.
Thank you. Thank you. So thank you.
Again, I can see that the song does have its problems, but I'm just glad that it exists. And I'm happy for the Ariana that existed at the time the song came out, when it went straight to the top of the charts. She seemed like she was in a better place than she'd been for a long time. It's the self-empowerment anthem done right, not oversold with bombast, and not vague and meaningless in its detail like so many similar songs. Just a blissful, uplifting track that I can't help but enjoy.
Nothing feels better than nothing feels better.
Number 8.
Feels better than
For as much dumb fun as a rock and country tune can be, my preferred type of country will always be its more emotive and organic side. The kind that moves my heart rather than gets it pumping. And, well, take that side of country and add one of my favorite pop singers of the decade, and the end result?
Tell me something, girl.
I've never watched A Star Is Born. I probably never will watch A Star Is Born. It doesn't matter. I don't really know who Bradley Cooper is either. Some actor, I think. He doesn't seem to be a musician at the very least, but he's a solid enough singer. It doesn't matter. The instrumentation here is solid, but not particularly special either. A quiet acoustic ballad with some nice guitar work that explodes into a bombastic rock climax towards the end, but it doesn't matter. There's really only one thing about this song that matters. For as big as Lady Gaga has been since the start of the decade, she still deserves to be so much bigger. She's just got incredible talent as a singer, as she demonstrates well here, and a lot of talent as a songwriter as well, on top of just being a genuinely interesting personality. I like having her around, and I'm glad she's still here even a decade later, even if she isn't the world-conquering superstar she started out the decade as. I don't know what this song or this scene is about in the context of the movie, and I refuse to look it up, but I have to imagine it's a great one. Probably the signature scene of the entire movie, if it has a performance this raw and powerful accompanying it. A good chunk of her parts are just repeated syllables, or an entire bridge made up of repeating the word whoa for 15 seconds straight, and yet every note she sings just sounds so damn wonderful. The song doesn't even seem particularly lyrical either, but again, it doesn't really matter.
I'm falling.
And I mean, everything else about the song is still quite good. I particularly like the strings and piano that come to join the acoustic guitar as the song progresses. And the overall build-up of the bridge is just phenomenal. Both the instrumental swell and Gaga's stunning performance, probably the best part of the entire song. The guitar hits in the climax have some real punch to them as well. It's overall a very well-executed ballad, there's no question about that. But Gaga is the element here that makes this one as good as it is. And I'm glad that she can still effortlessly put up performances this good this deep into her career. Long live Gaga, I say.
nothing feels better than nothing feels better.
Number 7.
Feels better than
I didn't like this song at first.
What do you want from me? Why don't you run from me? What are you wondering?
Yes, it's time to praise Billie Eilish. God knows she needs more of that. For real though, I listened to her debut album a few times actually. There's some really great songs on there. Mostly low-key ballads, less so the weird, dark, and misshapen pop cuts. And I lumped this one in with those at first, and didn't really get the appeal of it most of the entire year. But somewhere during re-listening to put together my list, it just clicked.
Say it, spit it out. What is it exactly? Your pain is the amount cleaning you out.
This song is almost entirely just percussion and vocals, meaning that there's not that much of a melodic element to this song. Or so I thought, but I think the one thing about this song that got to me was just how goddamn many hooks it has. There's like 4 or 5 different hooks throughout the song without any real proper chorus to speak of, and all of them are sticky as hell. Probably the most memorable of them all is this bit.
It's probably something that shouldn't be said out loud. Honestly, I thought that I would be dead by now.
But really, they're all pretty damn strong melodies, and every time I listened to this one, I came away with a different melody stuck in my head, until it slowly dawned on me that, indeed, I like this song quite a lot.
I wanna end me.
And this song is bleak as hell for the pop charts, dear lord. The song revels in its self-destructive, self-loathing, and borderline suicidal impulses delivered through the voice of the monster under her bed, or more realistically, the voice inside her head. It sort of reads to me as a song about intrusive thoughts specifically, the dark impulses that worm their way into our minds, despite every rational part of our brains knowing full well how bad the results of acting upon those impulses would be.
Step on the glass, staple your tongue, bury a friend, try to wake up.
The titular bury a friend line is, from what I've read, probably about the death of her friend XXXTentacion specifically, which, regardless of what you thought of him as a person, was clearly something that Billie herself struggled with, and likely the root of a lot of the smothering darkness that built the foundation of this song's lyrics.
Keep you in the dark. What had you expected? Me to make you my art?
And aside from the dark subject matter, there's all sorts of unsettling little noises, or occasionally loud, shrill buzzing, scattered throughout the track, just to add to the overall creepy and terror-stricken sound of the song. I honestly don't even know if this is a song intended to be enjoyed in the same way that most pop is, and that's probably true about a lot of Billie's music, but it's nothing if not compelling and interesting. Honestly, this is probably the most interesting song of the entire year-end, and easily the one I have the most to say about, but I'm keeping it this low simply because I feel I don't enjoy actually listening to it as much as the other songs above it on this list. There is a part of me that still wants to rate it higher just for how fascinating it is, though.
Cannibal clash, killing the sun, bury a friend.
And well, that's really all I thought of it at first. Intriguing and unique, but not something I was too keen on revisiting much. It was too quiet, too low-key, too weird, but I don't know. The fact that despite its ugliness, its darkness, its minimalism, it still managed to function as a pop song, memorable hooks and solid groove and all that, and holds up to overplay surprisingly well on top of all that too. Yeah, I can't deny it. This is a great track, and honestly makes me wonder if that album as a whole deserves another chance for me.
Why aren't you scared of me? Why do you care for me? When we all fall asleep, where do we go?
Nothing feels better, nothing feels better,
Number 6.
feels better.
And now we enter the phase of this list where my reason for liking these next few songs boils down to, it's a bop, baby! And what better place to start than with one of the last hits of 2018, one of the first and biggest hits of 2019, and the one that, in my opinion, provided the great template for the pop sound of the rest of the year.
Then you're left in the dust, unless I stuck by you.
This was a good year for soundtrack hits, huh? And I haven't seen Into the Spider-Verse either. I might, I don't know. I'm not really much of a movie person myself. I hear it's really good though. It's pretty much irrelevant here since the song just flat out doesn't have anything at all to do with the movie itself. It's diegetic music. It's just a song the main protagonist of the movie likes a lot, and the lyrics themselves don't relate to the plot in any way either.
Fighting for my trust and you won't back down. Even if we gotta risk it all right now.
The lyrics themselves don't seem to mean a lot in general, really. They definitely don't match the overall sound of the song, which is very warm, bright, and built on a great, relaxed groove. For the moment that first drum loop kicks in until the song ends, I'm just jamming along the entire way. Most of the rest of the production is just texture on top of that groove, a core synth line that forms a solid foundation, and lots of little melodic fragments woven together that make the sound really hard to pin down and feel surprisingly dynamic.
Ooh, certain things you just can't refuse.
I'm not a massive fan of either performer here though. Sway Lee has always been the more tolerable half of Ray Shremmerd, and Post Malone is very hit or miss in general. But the melodies they're both given to work with are strong enough to compensate for their lack of vocal ability, and cathartic enough to match the blissful beat. And there's just enough reverb applied not to drown them out completely, while still making them sound better than they would otherwise, and also providing the song a more atmospheric feel that matches the production really well. It's a surprisingly good fit, even if it's probably accidentally brilliant. For the record, Post has a better verse, Sway Lee has a better chorus.
I know you're scared of the unknown. You don't wanna be alone.
I don't really feel this is a song meant to be thought about too hard, and I don't really feel like thinking about it too hard either. It's just a song to put on and let the atmosphere of the song wash over you. Let your head bob along to the down-tempo groove. I wasn't immediately on board with this one, but it had its time to grow on me and won me over in the end. It's easy to see why this had as big of an impact as it did regardless. It's just a good song.
Nothing feels better, nothing feels better.
Number 5.
Feels better.
What do you want from me? Why don't you run from me?
Bury a Friend is a good song and all, but I sort of feel like it got beaten to the punch by another song this year. A song they released a few months prior was a bit more loose, a bit less dark, a bit more melodic. A song not necessarily playing the same lane Billy was trying to go for, but in execution still sounds fairly similar. A song I'd never heard until just recently, in fact, but one that grew on me pretty dang quick.
I've been having dreams, jumping on a trampoline.
I know I said we're in the it's a bop phase of the list, so hear me out. Yes, this song is certainly dark in atmosphere and tone, but it's got a great groove to it and actually ends up sounding pretty fun, at least to me. The way that the synth loop on the verses focuses on the offbeats, that comes out something fairly playful. The intentionally dreamlike vibe throughout the entire song. The cheery whistling on the bridge. I'm not the only one hearing it, right?
Wait, if I'm on fire, how am I so deep in love?
And I mean, it's in stark contrast to the outright apocalyptic imagery evoked throughout the song's lyrics, or its dark and self-destructive chorus, delivered mostly through Lee's low-key, smooth-as-silk vocals. She has a pleasant enough voice. You could call her a Lorelec if you wanted, I suppose. Though, she's closer to Lana Del Rey than anything. She's got enough control to keep her delivery calm in the quieter verses, but enough power to sell the build of the chorus effectively.
I never feel so loved.
And the song seems to have mastered the art of tension, with a tight and minimal sound in the verses, then the chorus building up to a bombastic release that never quite comes, without ever releasing that tension fully either. It's not a song that needs to get loud, but it's letting you know that it could if it wanted to. It keeps you on edge, but it's still predictable enough in its structure to not ever feel too tense.
La 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 la.
I guess I like it more than Bury a Friend just for how pop it is. They share a lot in common. A similar triplet groove, lyrics about dreams and nightmares, even lots of little noises and effects showing up throughout the tracks. But Trampoline is just more melodic, much stickier, a lot less bleak, and just a lot more fun. I can't really groove along to Bury a Friend in the way I can here. And while the song isn't quite as complex or nuanced, it's ultimately the one I find myself enjoying and wanting to return to more.
I never feel so loved.
Nothing feels better, nothing feels better.
Number 4.
Feels better.
'Cause I don't care when I'm with my baby, yeah.
I Don't Care by Ed Sheeran and Justin Bieber was released in 2019. It was Here by Alessia Cara again, but without a good beat behind it or a charismatic vocal performance to really sell it. Surprise of all surprises, a Flip Portishead sample beats out generic Tropical House imported straight from 2016 any day of the week. But I mean, it's not an inherently bad concept for a song. What if Sheeran took the premise of I Don't Care and made it sound like Sunflower, and in the process transcended both? Gonna have to try at least.
Beautiful people, top designer clothes, front row at fashion shows.
It's a bop! It's a bop, baby! I don't even know what else to say with this one. The first time I heard it, I thought it was just fine. A better cut from Sheer's collaborations project than most I'd heard, and I've always liked Khalid as a performer. He definitely fits his subject matter better than Justin friggin' Bieber, but it wasn't a song that immediately stuck out to me either. Then at some point I realized I kind of loved it. I don't know, I think it was that we are refrain at the end of the chorus that got me first.
We are not beautiful.
And let's be clear, this is a blatant ripoff of Sunflower, down to almost every single element of the song. Saying 2-verse and chorus structure, a similar percussion-driven groove full of different melodic loops stitched together. First verse by the louder, brighter-sounding singer, second verse by the sleepier, more low-key singer. The only notable thing this song does different is switching up the order of the performers' skin colors. I actually think the production here isn't quite as good as Sunflower's, but the song makes up for that by having both singers be so much more charismatic.
I'm not fazed by all the lights and flashy cameras. 'Cause with my arms around you.
Like I said, I've always liked Khalid. He deserves the level of success Drake's been seeing if I'm being honest. And I've always generally liked Sheeran as well. And one thing the song has that Sunflower completely drops the ball on is actual vocal chemistry between the two performers. Sway Lee and Post don't interact at all on Sunflower, while Sheeran and Khalid here share most of the pre-chorus and the chorus, with both of them coming in and out for a few lines on each as well. There's great synergy between the two, and they have distinct enough yet not overly contrasting voices that work well together.
Beautiful people, top designer clothes, front row at fashion shows.
And everything I said about the production on Sunflower pretty much applies here too. It's got a great groove, there's just an overall bright and blissful sound to this that I enjoy listening to. I'm glad pop sounds this way now instead of the depressing dreck or soulless pandering that fell off the charts over the last few years. And I hope pop continues sounding more like this in the coming years too. It'd make the charts a lot more fun to watch. Keep it up, y'all.
We are not beautiful. Nothing feels better than this. Nothing feels better.
Number 3.
Feels better than this. Up on melancholy hill, there's a plastic.
Man, I miss Gorillaz. I mean, they're still around. Albarn is still putting out new music under that name, but they haven't really seen the same level of commercial or critical success that they saw in the mid-2000s since then. And to be honest, I always found them really hit or miss anyways. But at their best, they put out some truly fantastic alternative tracks that I still revisit regularly to this day. This next song isn't at the level of their best, but to me, it definitely feels like it's keeping that same spirit alive, and I just find it an absolute delight to listen to.
Let it go. Seasons change and our love went cold.
This song right here is the absolute pinnacle of the bop songs on this list. The boppiest of the bops, primarily because of that groove, man! Honestly, it's a much better groove than Post Malone even deserves. He's definitely no Damon Albarn, and his incessant warbling, as it's been described, is the one aspect of the song I'm not huge on. But it hardly matters when he's given melodies this good to work with over such a damn strong instrumental.
Maybe you don't understand what I'm going through. It's only me.
But it's more than just the groove here. Comparing any Gorillaz song to this one, the immediate reaction would be to pick Feel Good Inc., which is grounded in a similarly meaty and groovy bass line, but that song is much more complex and multifaceted than this one. I chose On Melancholy Hill specifically because both songs give off that same vibe. A middling tempo, groove-driven instrumentation, sleepy vocals, a lush and warm sound, and both just flat out put me in a good mood. There's a nostalgic sound to both songs. I think that's the key thing that gets to me.
We couldn't turn around.
Both songs also use the same device of wrapping this comforting, pleasant sound around a lyrical conceit that is anything but. For as pleasant as Circles sounds, it's a song about a dying relationship that's already halfway in the ground, where the only thing keeping it alive is neither of them having the guts to end it for good. It's neither a love song nor a breakup song. It's stuck in that frustrating in-between that feels endless and hopeless. This lyrical conceit turns the sound of a song from a comforting one to a more somber mood, maybe even looking back fondly at the good times they had together, knowing that they can never return to that. Or maybe it's not actually that deep and Post didn't even think about it too hard, because he's just used to being a sad boy on all his tracks. I don't know. It still sounds goddamn great either way.
Run away, run away. I dare you to do something.
The fact that this is sung by Post Malone and not a vocalist with any real talent or presence is the one thing that keeps this from being any higher, but I don't think it actively harms the song's overall vibe either. And honestly, I'm glad to have him around if he's going to sneak rock back into the mainstream in any capacity. I can groove to this, it just makes me feel good listening to it, and it's just a song I enjoy all around. I'd say keep it up.
Run away, run away, run away. Nothing feels better than this. Nothing feels better.
Number 2.
Feels better than this.
Unlike previous year lists I've done, with this one I did actually struggle a little picking at my number 1. Really, all of my top 3 felt worthy of it, but especially with these top 2. They're both so damn great that it was difficult to choose between them. So yeah, here we have another song from the biggest name in pop music this year, with probably the best song she's ever put out, maybe ever will put out. Yeah, Ariana's got 2 spots on this list.
Just keep breathing and breathing and breathing and breathing.
If Thank You Next is Ariana Grande standing at the top of a mountain looking down, then Breathin' is the mountain she climbed to get there. Because goddamn, if we're talking about momentum, absolutely no song this year does it better. This song just keeps building and building as it goes on, topping itself with every new section. Like, the way the production just kicks into full gear during the second chorus.
Breathing and breathing and breathing and breathing. And all I gotta keep.
And the out of nowhere synthesizer solo, I love it. And apparently this solo gets replaced with a straight up guitar solo in live performances too. How damn cool is that? But really, I can't think of any song this year that hits harder than this one. You already know I love this kind of bombastic, intensely emotive pop, and this is no different. Ariana shows off the raw power in her voice without ever straight up belting. The production is carrying most of that weight for her, while she delivers a more melodic chorus with a strong but never overindulgent performance. And when I say Ariana has been through a lot to deserve a song like Thank You Next, this song is basically her unpacking all that in a down-to-earth display of humanity and fragility, but yet also a sense of security. Things have been bad for her, and maybe she's not quite there yet, but it's going to be alright now, as long as she just keeps breathing, managing that stress and anxiety as best she can. And seeing that she did indeed come out the other side of that as a stronger person, only really feels like it made this one that much more meaningful in hindsight. Really, from all angles, this one is pretty much perfect. The production is just fantastic, and Ariana unsurprisingly continues to be a great singer and performer. I honestly don't have anything I can critique here. I don't even have a good reason why this isn't topping the list. If this was my number one, and my number one was my number two, I don't think I complained at all. I guess I just don't quite have the connection to this one that I do to my number one. It's pretty much a tie though, all things considered. So yeah, excellent stuff. But before we get to the top of this list, I want to run through some quick honorable mentions and other highlights of 2019, starting with... This has the best rock song I've heard on the pop charts in years, but goddamn if the haughty and arrogant lyrics don't just rub me the wrong way. This song is so damn catchy, maddeningly catchy, so catchy I never want to hear it ever again. Gaga did it better anyways. Long live Gaga! I quipped that this song was High Hopes 2 when it first dropped, but in all honesty, this is a much better song than High Hopes. Therefore, I am now dubbing High Hopes as me, Zero. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. While she didn't make my favorite music this year, Lizzo was probably my favorite new artist of the year. This woman is just so much fun to have around, and this song just oozes charisma.
Nothing feels better than this. Nothing feels better.
Oh hey, my transition song. I like this one, but it's not one of Khalid's best. That ending is pretty cool too. It took me 4 or 5 listens to realize this was supposed to be a sex jam though.
I'm a sucker for you. Say the word and I'll go.
This really is just Feel It Still too, but I like it all the same. It has a slick groove, it has an Almond Break tribute, it's pretty fun stuff. What more can you ask for? Probably the best produced country sound of the year, and Combs is a pretty solid singer to boot, but there's not a lot to this that resonates with me emotionally. And really, the lyrical conceit of this song is sweet but psycho, but country. Yes, I know this one came first. I've already seen this get tossed on a few worst lists, mostly as dishonorable mentions, and I can only respond, okay? You do you, I guess. I'm not strongly attached to this one, but it's a better pop country ballad than most. Really dig that second verse and that guitar solo especially. Alright, allow me to go on a small tangent here, because this song...
Me and Kurt feel the same. Too much pleasure is pain. My girl spites me in vain. All I do is complain.
Post sounds better here than he ever has, and some of the best melodies he's ever had on top of that. The second verse in particular, the best F-bomb of the year.
Looking over the ass. Don't fuck with me.
And the way his voice just completely gives out singing the what of It Wasn't What You Wanted.
Turns out that it wasn't what you wanted.
And the chorus has a great melody too, especially of how an extra layer of harmony comes in with each repetition.
I want you out of my head. I want you out of my bedroom tonight. There's no way I can save you.
And that's all on Post, he did that himself. Sure, the beat here is solid with a great chord progression, but this is probably the first Post Malone song I've heard where I can say he's unequivocally the best part of his own song. So it's just a shame Young Thug had to show up and ruin everything.
My argument possessive, it got you precise.
Like, he doesn't start out so bad at first, but then he enters his higher register, and his voice is just so shrill, so sharp, and he can barely stay on the beat. His content is of course meaningless, and his verse is so damn long. 50 seconds of a 3-minute song.
I'm no good at goodbyes. Goodbye, goodbye, goodbye.
The fact that I still enjoy listening to this one despite about a third of it being unbearable to me is a testament to the quality of Post performance on the other 2/3 of the song, and this definitely could be considered an honorary number 11. Part of me wonders if it should have made the list proper, too, but then I'd have embarrassed myself by including 3 Post Malone songs on my list.
Goodbye, goodbye, goodbye. so good at goodbyes.
Anyways, have a joke, honorable mention to lighten the mood. In 20, 30, maybe even 50 years, pop music analysts are gonna look over the 2019 charts, see this song on the list, and wonder what the absolute hell went down that year to make this possible. But really now, y'all, it's a kid song for kids. There's no reason to get mad at it, it's just super funny to me that it's here. This isn't relevant to 2019 pop at all, but I just want to point out that a jazz prog cover of an Eddie Murphy song is a real thing that exists now, and it's way better than it has any right to be. The only song for the 2018 year end that also made the 2019 year end that I particularly like. Good, fun groove to this one. Eastside has a good chorus too, but everything else about it ranges from decent to mediocre, so no honorable mention for it.
I do my hair talk, check my nails. Baby, how you feeling?
This one was going to be on the list until Billboard snubbed it by cutting off the chart year weirdly early. As much as I like Truth Hurts, this one's just way more fun and just sounds a lot better to boot. Expect this one on my 2020 list, almost certainly. Juice deserved better too. Meanwhile, I was entirely prepared for this to not make the year end, so I'm not too shocked. But I really hope this doesn't get caught between years now. It's not my favorite on this album, more on that in a minute, but it's Taylor's best hit since the 1989 era, and just such a delightful song. And here's what the list would look like if the ineligible songs included. And real quick, I'd like to steal a phrase and talk about the, ideal hit from a few artists who did see chart success this year, but, in my opinion, had songs deserving of that success even more. This is real? This happened? Can we please make this a huge hit in 2020? Oh my god, this is great. That guitar solo!
We'll do whatever you want, travel wherever, how far, we'll hit up all your places.
Hey, Lana had a few charting songs this year, so it counts. I've never checked out her stuff before this one, but this album seems pretty solid. This one's my favorite based on the few listens I've given it thus far. The boppiest bop of the year of the bop. If this isn't released as a single, I'm going to blacklist Taylor from all my future retrospective lists. Holy hell, this song is incredible. Pop perfection.
Sorry, can't save me now.
My favorite off this album, closely followed by I Love You, which I also would have settled for as a hit. Like I said, the ballads on this album worked best for me, but I do understand why the mediocre but pop-friendly bad guy turned out to be the biggest hit in the end. Shame that Billie didn't release any of her softer songs as a single though. Wait a minute.
I could lie, say I like it like that, like it like that.
Okay, hands up, who here is actually surprised? God, this feels like the most obvious possible pick for the best song of the year, but it just is, man! In fact, I'm going to predict now, before having seen even a single best list, that this will top no less than 5 best lists this year. It's just, songs like this don't even belong on the pop charts. Songs like this don't normally exist on the pop charts. Songs this subtle, this nuanced, this ethereal.
But nothing is better sometimes.
It's hard to nail down exactly what emotion the song makes me feel or is looking to inspire. Sadness feels a bit too on the nose. Despite how lush it sounds, it's definitely not comforting either. I've heard it called angry, but I don't think that's quite right. More bitter than angry, really. A foreboding sense of dread. Not only are things not okay, but things aren't going to be okay either. It's going to stay this way. It's not quite the bleakness that Bury a Friend portrays, but it's certainly on the path to that feeling.
Call me friend, but keep me closer.
And if there's any one song that immediately calls to mind, I'd have to point to Lord's Liability. They share a lot in common. Gentle, sultry vocals, piano as the primary instrument, a sense of bitterness and dread, alienation even, running through both. And I will say for the record that I don't think this is quite as good as Liability, which is a genuine modern classic. But it's still really damn good all the same.
Quiet when I'm coming home and I'm on my own.
I feel like there isn't even much to talk about regarding the music itself that isn't blatantly obvious. Billie sounds great here. The delivery is subtle, with the sense that she's trying to hold it together, to remain as indifferent and apathetic as possible, but it's easy to see the cracks in that facade in almost every line.
Don't you know I'm no good for you?
The song is borderline a cappella with only the barest of musical accompaniment, layers of affected voices, some gentle piano melodies, a few scattered clips of percussion throughout, and basically nothing else. Nothing. That word. The use of nothingness, of empty space between passages, is probably the most striking thing about this song, really. And despite the emptiness and the sparse production, the song still does manage to have a build throughout, even if it's slow and subtle. The focus at all times remains on Billy's vocals and lyrics, though, with the instrumentation not needing to serve as anything beyond accompaniment.
And I could lie, say I like it like that, like it like that.
It almost feels like that this song's existence vindicates the lack of success that Lorde saw in 2017. Again, they're both playing in different lanes artistically, but I'd have a hard time believing that Billie isn't at least influenced by Lorde's work to some extent. If nothing else, the door wouldn't have been open without her. But this was, without question, my favorite thing that happened in pop this year, and indeed, the best hit song of 2019.
I could lie, say I like it like that, like it like that.
And that's that for this year, and for the decade as a whole. I'm definitely planning to do more year-end top 10s in the coming year, probably starting with 2015 and 2011, the 2 years I'm most looking forward to tackling. Regarding this list though, I'd say that while 2019 as a whole wasn't great, the stuff I enjoyed the most I really enjoyed, more so than a lot of 2012's best, though still not in the same league as a lot of my favorite 2014 tracks. Next up for me though will be the best albums of 2019, which I'm way behind as usual, so I wouldn't expect it any earlier than March, but we'll see. Look forward to that because there's some great stuff coming up on that list. Until then though, I'll see y'all on the other side of the decade.